Ladies and gentlemen, the authority, Pete Thamel.
Yeah, Pete.
Pete, you look awesome. Thank you for joining us. Did I accurately lay out everything that kind of happened there? And can you give us a bit more detail and kind of where we go from here in this situation?
Yeah, absolutely, Pat. Thanks for having me. So I think the most important part of Dabo Swinney's direct calling out of Ole Miss and Pete Golding is just how rare it is in the modern landscape. You don't hear sitting head coaches, especially those who've won 2 national titles. I think he's one of 2 guys who's won 2 natties that's active right now. Just get in front of a microphone and lay out, piece by piece, allegations of tampering and giving specific examples of evidence in how the tampering went. That is like the wow in all this. That just does not happen in an environment in college football right now where tampering is par for the course, man. Tampering is first and 10. It is rampant. It is out there. And one of the reasons why it's so rare that coaches call it out is a vast majority of them or their staffs are doing the same thing. Dabo is one of the few coaches whose backyard is clean enough that he can come and say, hey, look, this is happening. This should not be happening. Have you talked to Group of 5 coaches, FCS coaches, people like that? I mean, they could give you examples. And what's happened is generally on the landscape, Pat, coaches have become cavalier about this. They have not been careful. Like they used to use burner phones. They used to be,
McDonald's bags. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, cavalier.
And Now it's just as Dabo alleges, pretty blatant. The head coach is texting allegedly the linebacker, who's very good, by the way, in sociology class, to say, hey, come here and here's what we'll do and here's how this will go. So around the industry, Dabo's move was wildly applauded because in general, people want rules, right? Like in general, people want paradigms, guardrails, however you want to say it. People want rules, they want them to be followed, but college football, as we know, and college athletics in general, have a rich history of rules being made and people finding ways around the rules. And it is the least surprising development in the history of college athletics that this iteration we're in right now has followed along with that, with now the CSC and in the NCAA. People thought it was the NCAA that couldn't enforce the rules, but the reality that we're learning is nobody wanted to follow the rules, so they're not going to until someone forces them to do it. So this specific case, Pat, is going to come to the NCAA. I was told by NCAA officials on Friday that they processed 90 tampering cases in the last year. Now, that could include tennis or ping pong or whatever else. There have been, since the NIL era started, I would say there has been a distinct lack of high-profile tampering cases, considering how rampant it is in the environment. Seton Hall basketball had a case where Kevin Willard, their former head coach, was suspended, and Shaheen Holloway, who's now the head coach there, who's at St. Peter's at the time, they had to serve a couple game suspension each. They do something, but that is the one example where I can recall a sitting head coach in a prominent sport actually serving time for tampering because they were caught that red-handed. So this is going to be a fascinating test case going forward, but let's be real, Pat. Say Pete Golding gets caught here. Say he did what he's alleged and the NCAA finds evidence to charge him. Is that going to stop an environment where I would estimate 90% of the schools are doing some kind of tampering? My guess would be no. So ideally, what Dabo did, people were applauding and they were behind, and there was a wave of enthusiasm for that. But until that changes the reality, I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have.
Thank you for the breakdown. So Dabo Swinney is a fish trying to swim up a waterfall right now, is what you're saying in the entirety. Certainly morally correct and potentially has the right angle from the entire industry side, but it's going to be tough to change anything with just this one particular case. So sociology actually a pretty good class to take for studying how this all kind of turns out. Yes. Anyways, shout out to Professor Feather. I appreciate the hell out of you. Sociology was a fantastic class. So you're saying 90% of the people aren't really pressing this type of issue because they got skeletons in their closet doing the exact same thing. So how would it stop? And are they going to go back and punish people once rules are made? If there's a harsh punishment to Golding here, who I don't think, does he even know that he did something wrong? He's a very new head coach. This is the world that he was kind of raised in. Him just putting the shark tweet out there, it's just yeah, so what? So what? So be it. I'm going to go ahead and do that. He doesn't know what the punishment could be. Move. What is the punishment that could happen to Coach Golding? And is the punishment going to be strong enough that it stops everybody from doing it? Or how do you stop? What is the right answer here to stop all of it?
So it is not all going to be stopped. I am convicted. I am convicted on that. I do think if there is a punishment to Pete Golding for these allegations, and again, they are just allegations, it could curb or maybe change behavior or de-incentivize that kind of behavior, or they could have third parties do it, et cetera, et cetera. The rare part of this is the allegations are that the head coach was, this direct in the tampering allegations. Now, look, Dabo laid out pretty clear these things. What we don't know is, do they have copies of the text messages, or were those just verbally articulated? Is there actual hard evidence of this? And that's ultimately what it's going to come down to from an NCAA standpoint. Can the NCAA go interview Luke Ferrelli and say, hey, did this actually happen? It is certainly going to be uncomfortable for Ole Miss and Pete Golding going forward. That is certain. Can I sit here watching the impotence of NCAA enforcement for the last quarter century that I've done this and say, oh, they'll get this, they'll just hammer them to the wall here? No, of course not. It just simply hasn't operated that way at any point. So I don't know why we would think this would, be a paradigm shift or paradigm changer. I think there's optimism in the industry. It could curb some behavior or maybe alter some behavior, but I don't know that we're this deep in this path where it's just, everything's going to go full stop.
Okay, thank you for that update. Sounds very positive. AJ has a question for you.
Yeah, Pete, do you think we will see more coaches possibly doing this, especially if the NCAA does not come down hard on Pete Golding and what they've done? Do you think other coaches might feel comfortable calling other teams out for tampering?
Well, I think that was the point of Dabo doing this, is to basically say, and he even said it, on the record in this. He just said, "Hey, look, like, we need to do this to save our industry. We need to call out this type of behavior." Usually, what happens in these cases, AJ, is a coach finds out that some assistant recruiting director is tampering, and that coach calls the head coach and says, "Hey, cut it out." And typically they cut it out. That I've heard countless examples of that happening. But look, if you stop tampering, you lose a considerable competitive advantage. And to have 136 of these schools, let's say 120 of them are doing it, right? Do you think all 120 are going to give up their competitive advantage, or they're going to find another way to create the competitive advantage? Now, I certainly appreciate Dabo doing this. I mean, it's from a content perspective and from an idealism perspective, it is absolutely rare. It is honorable what he's doing, and I think it comes from the right place. But again, you cover this industry long enough, cynicism develops. So I can't come on and promise this is going to be the tipping point that changes everything. But it is a fascinating snapshot, fascinating moment in time, and will be very interesting to track.
Connor has a question for you about college basketball.
Yeah, Pete, can you take us into the nebula of college basketball a little bit here? What is kind of the big storyline? Is it the G Leaguers coming in and kind of playing in college again now? I saw Tennessee's X account actually added the G League's team that player was formerly of. Is that kind of the biggest thing right now? And do you see college basketball being hindered by any of this at all, similar to what Dabo is saying?
Well, Connor, it's nice to be coming to you from the city of champions today here in Boston.
Okay.
It's got to be Pete. You said it.
18 and a half inches of confetti falling outside my window here.
That's
in
good.
Boom!
Said Pete. Well,
Boom!
Pete.
And none
God
of it is orange.
celebrating the Patriots.
And none of it's orange. They left those in the can, didn't they? Yes.
Can't believe
It's
this
great
team's
to
in
have
the
you
Super
guys
Bowl.
back.
It's unbelievable. It's
dream.
unbelievable. As for college basketball, Connor, great question. Saturday was one of the best days of college basketball I think the sport's had in recent years. There was just a flurry of electric performances by freshmen all around the country, and it really, as the focus of the nation starts to shift off of college football to college basketball, and eventually after the Super Bowl, it'll be in full force. We're really bracing for an electric college basketball season. This weekend game day is going to be at Kansas BYU. We have AJ Demancin, pride of Brockton, Mass. I'm sure he's proud of the Patriots as well. He's BYU, likely number one pick in the draft. Obviously, Darren Peterson for Kansas is in the thicket of that conversation. They're going to play each other in Lawrence, but there are 7 or 8 freshmen all around the country that have just delivered and redelivered, scintillating performances. There was one after another. It was almost like an accordion on Saturday afternoon. So I do think while Bediako's situation took up a lot of the headlines and kind of became a cause celeb for a lot of the modern issues, the sport itself is in a pretty healthy place in terms of on the floor product right now. And I'm really excited to see how this is going to push forward and conclude here.
Cause celeb. That was good. That was a good tie-in. Hey, it's a big storyline that everybody thinks is a great depiction of the world we're living in currently. Let's go ahead and talk about it. That's a cause celeb. I think I just pieced together the context clues there. Koa Pete, one of those guys going crazy,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Arizona's been a juggernaut. Koa Pete's been, electric. Arizona, could have 3 or 4 players drafted. They kind of remind you of like an old school 90s basketball superpower. Michigan's a wagon. They are excellent. Dusty May really has them playing at an extremely high level there. There are 8 teams where you could really easily say and make a compelling national title case. Texas Tech, our friends in Lubbock, Buddy Beach and company, Pat, were fired up for Houston coming into town on Saturday. Game day was there, and
did you go get some meat from Buddy Beach? Did you go get some meat from Buddy Beach?
I did not go to Lubbock this weekend.
What?
But I did. No, I don't travel for game day to start the season. I will in the future. But I would have gone to Las Brisas, Lubbock's finest steakhouse, if I was there. The weather was actually so bad that our crew, Reese and everybody, were planning to go, but they couldn't go. Lubbock got shut down on Saturday. I think some of our crew is actually still in Lubbock from Saturday night.
Godspeed. The weather's crazy, obviously. Crazy.
Weather is crazy. Yeah.
I forgot that you guys get right into college basketball game day.
Yeah.
I did see the Texas Tech signs and stuff from their basketball setup. I love that Buddy Beach and the boys are still down there doing it for that area. That place loves sports, and obviously they come together behind Texas Tech. It looks like they're in it for the long haul. Speaking of the long haul, not a lot of changes were made, but one big one was made to the college football playoff. Last question for you here, Pete. Go ahead, Tone.
Yeah, Pete, last week we found out that there will be no changes to the amount of teams going, at least for this next year, for 2026. 12 teams will be the college football playoff format, but some changes as far as who gets in. So now if you win the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, or the Big 10, you are automatically in the playoff field. For those that don't know, Duke won the ACC this year, so they would have been in the tournament. And then if Notre Dame is in the top 12, because they are not in a conference, they worked out a deal, and I believe all the commissioners and ADs agreed on it, that they would also be in the playoff if they were in the top 12 rankings for the CFP committee. Is there anything else that I left out, and how did that all come to do?
Tone, good points. I think that the simplest way to synthesize that is that both Duke and Notre Dame would have been in this field, and Miami would not have been in this field if these current rules were in for 25, as they're going to be for 2026. As for the macro for the sport and for potential playoff expansion, it's a bit of a quagmire, Pat, to use one of your favorite words. The SEC and the Big Ten essentially have control of the CFP. The SEC is open to moving to 16. The Big Ten is only open to moving to 16 if there is a ladder within 2 or 3 years to move to 24. Both sides were convicted of this. And neither really moved, and there was never really any significant discussion pushing forward because neither would move off those stances. So it will be interesting to see going forward. One of the Big Ten's big criticisms, guys, is the CFP committee and giving too much to the CFP committee. So how will they handle the SEC now that the SEC has 9 conference games? Is one of the big things in the weeds here that people are going to be looking at pushing forward. So the drumbeat of this conversation will continue. It will likely continue through next season, and come December, we'll be in some beautiful CFP location, and we'll be talking about this on game day again, Pat.
Yes, we certainly will, and it feels like dog chase tail for college football. There's always going to be some ripple effect of a problem that's going to come from some other decision that is made. Let's keep it at 12. So they both agree they want to get to 16 right now, but Big Ten wants 24 at least in the next couple years. SEC says 16 is good enough. Okay, shut up. Come on, you two. You're both at 6. We're way too early in this process to be making back-end guarantees on a deal. If you both want 16 right now, we're still evolving. Let's go ahead and get there and then figure out the 24 later. My personal opinion, not that anybody needs to listen. This is just a take on the situation. We are, 3 years into this version of the CFP we're about to be?
Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
We don't need back-end pretend deals being made for progress to be made on something that is still evolving into what it is. That's me. And I love Petiti. I'm sure he has a reason for that. And Sankey, I'm sure he has a reason for that. But it's like, come on, we're not at a... If this was 30 years old and we're trying to lock in something else, like, let's do that. But evolution to make it however they think is better. Not that 16 is the right answer, but if you both want to get to 16, let's not let something that might be 5 years down the road affect something that could change right now and make it much better than it already is potentially. 16 games would be sick. Would that add a champion to the mix? Miami not being in this year would have been crazy. Would have changed the outcome of a lot of different things. So hopefully we're able to get it right. The Notre Dame situation, let's talk about it, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Patrick McAfee. Okay.
Sure.
I am Irish. My father, Catholic. We did not practice growing up, but, you know, obviously Irish Catholic in Pittsburgh is a thing that certainly exists. I understand that what Notre Dame's been able to do as an independent is certainly incredible. I think you have to remain relevant. You have to obviously remain good. You have to be able to be your own entity and not rely on the rest of your conference pals to get deals done and stuff like that. Now, them just automatically getting a bid if they're ranked in the top 12 of the College Football Playoff Committee is certainly attackable for like, yeah, right. Why do we continue to change and bend the rules for this team and university that wants to do something different than literally everybody else? If they want to do what we're doing, tell them to do what we're doing. If they want to make it, they have to join a conference, is what some people are saying. Why are we better? On the flip side, Notre Dame says top 12 is like our auto bid because you guys are giving conference champions auto bid. So if we're top 12, that's our automatic bid, even though we're not in a conference. And then people say, well, get in a conference if you want an automatic bid. Like that's how you have to work it if you want to earn an at-large bid. I think if it is going to all come down to how they're ranked, don't you think they're going to have to rank them properly? Like if they beat an ass team by 15, it's like, all right, you're 16th in the country. Because I think the biggest deal with Notre Dame this past year was they were ranked, 10th or 9th? Or something early. And then all of a sudden for the last one, it gets flipped on its head. And then all of a sudden they're like, we've been ranked above Miami this whole time. We've basically been competing with Alabama for this entire thing. And then you flip us for the last time. I think the College Football Playoff Committee and everybody else is going to have to rank them for what they actually are against the actual teams that they're playing. I think it has to be a little stricter ranking. Do you not agree with that? Or do you think that is the only answer? And how do we kind of get through this entire Notre Dame thing without it looking like everybody is just changing everything for one particular institution?
Sure. So from the macro, Pat, like Notre Dame as a brand is really a juggernaut, and they have existed sort of in this unique space for more than a century, and until they are like clubbed to the wall and forced out of it, which would basically have to be by no one scheduling them, they've made it very clear they want to exist in that space. I do think there will be an additional layer of scrutiny on their schedule. Now, look, sitting here in January, it's always hard to say. We just don't know who's going to be good and who's not, especially in modern college football. How it, how much changes in the off season right now, right? But yes, is there a oh my God, that's a top 5 matchup on their schedule? Probably not. I mean, the Miami game obviously looks good, and I'm scanning this. I haven't studied this, but I'm scanning it now. Like they have some very good games. And how Wisconsin and Michigan State and Carolina ultimately end up looking, and BYU, I guess, are probably, is going to determine whether that schedule is tough or not. They do always play a lot of power conference schools. It's funny because Notre Dame for years almost was criticized for playing too difficult of a schedule because they would come out and play Michigan, and the world has changed and evolved a little bit. So, I mean, they, no one's forcing the CFP to do this, but look, the CFP understands the unique role of Notre Dame. They are a ratings juggernaut. That's a big part of this, right? People care. We're sitting here talking about Notre Dame's 2026 schedule on January, whatever it is. Like they are part of the star system in the sport. And like nobody came in and said, hey, you need to include them. They're including them because they consider them a vibrant part of the landscape, and the TV partners obviously want Notre Dame in there.
That'd be hard to argue that entire narrative. Notre Dame, obviously a part of the college football season, everybody's college football season. Notre Dame is a part of it. If they want to remain independent, I guess in their eyes, they had a good enough argument to say, hey, we should still get an auto bid if we perform well. I think it makes sense. If they're ranked in the top 10, they should get in there anyways. Like that's how we should be doing the make it thing anyways.
Yes.
Now there's one at large. So hopefully they'll just do real ranking through it all. Now, AJ has last question for you because there's a big move happening in Big Ten.
Yeah, Pete, Arthur Smith, the Ohio State Buckeyes, Ryan Day is bringing him in as the offensive coordinator. Is this something that I guess that had been in the works. Did you think this was not like a possibility, and how do you think this is going to play out?
I was a little surprised at this, to be honest, AJ. He's not a guy who, he was linked to the North Carolina job last year, and he had some time early in his career at Ole Miss, but he's really not a college guy, per se. Arthur Smith has always kind of come up through the pro ranks. I think this can be looked at as part of the trend of the professionalization of college sports, where taking these college jobs now have a little bit less of a stigma than it used to, because the recruiting demands aren't what they once were. And if you're going to coach at a place like Ohio State, you are going to have superior talent to a overwhelming majority of your schedule. So he can come in, he can coach Julian Sayin, he can coach Jeremiah Smith. And Ohio State's going to return a really good offensive line. They're going to be very good. So you put yourself in a position to succeed, much like you watched Matt Patricia go and I think completely overhaul his on-field coaching reputation after what happened at the Lions by coming in and leading what was, for a vast majority of the season, the number one defense in college football. Was historically good, up until the end of the year. So I do think some of these high-end college jobs where you're not hauling around for a month, kissing up to some 16-year-old lineman, and really, going through the grind of recruiting. If you can kind of have these jobs where you're gonna sit back, you're gonna be the play caller, you're gonna run the offense, and the everything else can go work around. And AJ, I think this comes to pass because recruiting now is tied to buying players, right? There's really no other way to say it. The facilities don't matter as much. Everything that, like, the players come and they say, how much are you going to pay me? And so that necessitates a lot less text messages, phone calls, a lot of the performative parts.